Hey everyone, hope you're having a lovely sunny day. There's something I want to speak about in this video, but before I get to it, I have a bit of a funny story to share because I just remembered. I remember the first ever time I went to a club in my life. This was in university. A few friends said, "Hey, let's go to a club, let's go have fun." And this was going to be my first time ever in a club. And so I said, yes, let's go. Let's go check it out. And I remember we were students. We paid, we queued up, and then we entered this hall, this room that was the student club at the time. And there were maybe, I don't know, 50, 60 people spread out in this room, all kind of dancing or standing awkwardly. And I was just immediately disappointed because I was thinking to myself, is this what we paid for? We paid all this money to walk into a room full of people that we could have spoken to outside of this building. I could have just gone up and spoken to any of those people. Yes, there's music. Yes, there's alcohol. But what is the point? Why did we pay all that money just to walk into this building? So for me, I was a bit pre-antisocial, should we say. For me, it was just completely weird, did not make any sense. And that's something I was reflecting on today because in this video, I want to speak about being an introvert and going through life being someone who enjoys spending a huge amount of time alone. And for all the crazy stuff that I do, for all the bold social moves, the public speaking, going up to strangers in public and just having conversations with them that you might have seen on my channel, for all that, I am still a person who very much prefers being in a room by myself, focused on one of my hobbies, working on my business, watching something, reading something. That is how I find peace rather than being in large groups. And I was just thinking through how it ended up that way for me and my personality. Now, I'm sure that some of that must be genetic. I'm sure some of it must be natural in my genes, but I can think back to incidents as well that would have pushed me to become more of an introvert. For example, growing up, my parents were always very serious with academics. They wanted me and my siblings to do well in school, and rightfully so. So I spent huge amounts of time in the study, reading my textbooks, studying for tests, studying for exams by myself. And I think that's the kind of thing that will push you to get used to spending time alone. So that's the first incident that I can think of that pushed me to be an introvert. But the second big one is this. Beautiful place, by the way. This is Avenue M in Marrakesh, which I just discovered a few days ago. And now I'm addicted to coming here and just walking around, taking in the sights, and eating all the food as well, even though I'm supposed to be on my diet. Let's turn around this way. The second big thing, the second big event was moving across continents, moving across countries to study for university. And lots of people ask me this question, did you move by yourself? And I always find that very funny. But the answer is yes, I did move more or less alone. My parents are not going to go to university classes with me. They're not going to stick around and make sure that I'm doing everything right. So it's an experience where you learn to be an adult, where you learn to experience the world for yourself. But one of the big moments in this story when I was at university was, I remember there was a summer and everyone basically went home. All the students went home. This was the first or second summer at university. All the students went home to their families, to their homes. But that summer, rather than fly across continents back home, I paid to stay on campus. And I was the only person who did this. Me and a Chinese girl, if I recall correctly. So imagine this massive campus, and there are basically only two students, no teachers, no professors, no faculty, just two students and the cleaning staff, and maybe some support staff, people taking care of the campus, landscaping, all that kind of stuff. So it was basically me and one girl, and that was 3 months. So that's when I really learned to just be by myself in a large environment and keep myself entertained, keep myself focused. Back then I was teaching myself to program computers, so it was not such a big deal. I was just able to do it. I think I handled it much better than most of my friends would have at the time. But this was one of those things, again, that pushed me to be an introvert. So aside from just my natural genes, my natural disposition, these different incidents made me someone who's able to spend huge amounts of time solo. And now I'm much more grown up. I'm more of an adult. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a creator. And I look back and I think, is this a good thing? The fact that I'm such an introvert. And it's a double-edged sword. There are benefits, there are disadvantages. For me, one of the best things is I've spent my whole life just traveling, going to places like this by myself. I don't wait for friends. I don't wait for anyone to confirm and tag along, join in. If I want to go somewhere, if I want to go to a different country, I will fly there by myself. I will make friends. I will connect with people. And sometimes that's the most amazing adventure, is when you meet strangers on the road. That's the way I ended up in Italy for the first time in my life. I just bumped into these strangers. We became friends, and they invited me to travel down by road in their car with them. So you have some of the most amazing experiences. As an entrepreneur, it makes you independent to be an introvert. You don't need to wait for partners, for friends to be on the same boat as you. If you believe in something, you can just start to take action. So that's one of the most beautiful things. And I just remembered another funny thing, which is, for most of my life, I used to go to restaurants alone. I would just go up to restaurants and ask for a table, and the waiters would always give me the strange look, table for one, and I would say yes. And not until, let's say, 7 years ago, did I realize that this is something that's supposed to be weird. I always thought, why is it weird to go to a restaurant by yourself? Until someone actually told me, oh, most people go with friends, with family, and most people, if they have no one to go to, wouldn't go to a restaurant. But for me, the food is going to taste the same. Yes, it's great to have a lovely conversation, but if I'm hungry, I want to try at a nice, lovely restaurant. Why should the fact that I'm by myself stop me? So restaurants and cinemas as well. I would say 90% of films I have seen at the cinema, I went by myself my whole life. And it's actually one of my favorite things to do. I love being in the cinema, surrounded by people, watching a nice film, but by myself. Not with friends, not with anyone I know, just surrounded by strangers. That for me is one of the most magical experiences of escapism for me. And now on to the disadvantages of being an introvert for life, for business. I would say business is the big one, because there are many situations that I have jumped into. I haven't waited for other people's advice. I haven't waited for partners to tag along. And there are many times in business where you need to hear ideas from other people as well. You need to hear their opinions. You need to learn what works, what doesn't work. And you don't have to figure that out yourself. If you have people who are your friends, who are your partners on the same journey, then you can learn much faster what works, what is great to do. So that I would say is the biggest disadvantage. And at times, I would say this is very rare for me. It does get down. You do want to be with friends, you do want to be with partners, but that for me is rare. As long as I'm keeping myself occupied, as long as I'm excited about what I'm working on, as long as I'm in a beautiful environment, usually I'm fine. But obviously, nobody wants to be alone 100% of the time. So that is something that will affect you even as an introvert as well. But all in all, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to be able to go in your own direction, on your own path in life, and not wait for everyone to get on the same boat as you, and just see the world physically, ideologically, experience things that other people might not have the opportunity to experience because they're waiting for someone to go along with them. So those are my quick thoughts on introversion being a double-edged sword, the advantages, the, the drawbacks, some food for thought. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.